social media having their thoughts and their reaction. It felt like every single person in the world watched that movie this weekend, Damien, and about 50% of them hated it and 50% of them absolutely loved it. So we might get into that here in a little bit because I know I watched it on Friday, like a lot of you did as well. But hope everyone, again, had a wonderful weekend and you are ready to go this week. Because this week, I don't know if you can smell it in the air, Damien. I smelt it this morning when I woke up, got in my car to come up here and do the show. But it's here. Last week, again, we said, SEC Media Days, kind of the official start of football season. Well, then last week, kind of sneaks up on you because you have last week where there's kind of that lull. Granted, we did have some interesting news come out throughout the week and different things happening in the world of college football. But now you got the Hall of Fame game coming up this Thursday. So 3 days away, you're going to get to watch live tackle football. Now, granted, I think we all agree we're probably going to really watch the first 30 minutes of it, and then we're going to quickly remember why. It's the preseason, and that'll probably be that. But, hey, it's something. Football is here on Thursday. You are going to get the NFL Hall of Fame game as the Lions and Chargers will kick off the preseason there. And on Tuesday, you're going to have the Auburn Tigers as their players will report to the Plains, and they will get ready to kick off fall camp. So the players are going to report on Tuesday. From what I understand, practice will then begin the next day on Wednesday. And for the Alabama Crimson Tide, you are going to have your fall practice start on Wednesday. So all of this happening in the next couple of days. Really, really exciting time as, again, it starts to feel a little more real. Once the guys actually hit the practice field, we're going to have things to talk about. You're going to get reports from practice, reports from camp. Now, granted, some of it, as we know, is, things that are maybe going to come off to be a bigger deal than they should be early on. But it is fall camp. There's a reason that they go through all these practices. But I'm excited, Damien. It'll be nice to actually have some concrete evidence, some real insight into what's going on the practice field this fall to get us ready because in 33 days, you're going to have Alabama playing FSU. In 32 days, you're going to have Auburn playing Baylor.
Here for it. We're here for it. Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's especially I go back to my playing days of just how mentally locked in you have to be for this period of time. Like it's a wake up football, midday football, at the end football. Like these guys that are about to get ready for fall camp. It's brutal. It really is, especially now with the heat that's especially here in Alabama. Probably have to adjust some things on the practice schedule, but I think that anything that we are inching closer towards actual live action football, I'll take it. And the Hall of Fame game this week coming up on Thursday, could care less who was out there on the field. Not going to look at it. Anybody saying, "Oh man, he's going to make the 53." I can tell. Like, I don't care. I'm just happy that I don't have to watch a replay of a game anymore. By God, we got something to at least tune our eyes on, even if you don't watch the full game.
I was about to say, you can have it on in the background, the ambiance, the crowd noise, all of that stuff will be nice. Because, you'll get one drive with the actual starters, right? And that's probably
that's
about
all you
it.
need.
Yeah, and that should be about all you need. So, but it should be a good one with the Lions and Chargers, so two of the better teams in the league. I know you're excited to watch Jared Goff go and do his thing for about 5 to 6 plays, and then you'll get to watch your guy Hendon Hooker. Though I imagine he'll get a little bit of playing time as the backup there in Detroit to Jared Goff.
Yeah, he needs to go out there and do what he does best. Throw a lot of passes.
Create some value in case the Titans need a...
no, we're fine. We're fine.
Just in case. Ward. Okay.
Hey, listen, I've seen the clips this weekend.
You saw of him and Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was insufferable Saturday.
Yeah, I also saw some clips of Jalen Milroe that would make you think that he was going to be the savior of the Seattle Seahawks. So it's practice. It is practice.
Man, but a complete sidebar. I hate it for him because I did think that in the grand scheme of it, I thought his career would be off to a little bit better of a start. Mm-hmm. But it's a recurring theme that we've seen there as the Tennessee Titans as Traylon Burks.
Yeah. Broke his collarbone, right?
He did. And the crazy thing is, it's the way it was worded. I saw a tweet. It's like, this is the Traylon Burks experience. Makes an acrobatic catch on the sideline, shakes it off, makes sure that he's good, and then he clutches his left shoulder, and then you kind of figure out that things are going south. But, again, in the grand scheme of it all, for us to lose A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
that's the pick that you
yeah
used. Yeah, that one stings.
It does.
So I saw a picture yesterday on social media, and I guess I'd forgotten this. So when he did his draft party, because he was a first-round pick, did he do that at a sorority house?
I don't know, but I'm leaning to the.
I'm just saying, it looked like a picture of him and his grandmother and a bunch of people that he was not related to.
They're like, he did this
just
in the
say
Kappa
that.
Delta house. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I saw
He's
that.
Like, they
and I
got
was
Granny
like,
in the KD house.
I was like, did he really do that? Man, I hope. I hope he's still with that girl. Something tells me he's not, but I hope that he is. I just thought that was.
Some people have CD Lamb, some people have Traylon Burks.
So you have two phones too?
I mean, after what happened, over the weekend, I think he should get another phone. Hopefully in another city.
Poor guy. Yeah, that one just hasn't quite worked out for the Titans, unfortunately. But yes, you do have the NFL Hall of Fame game coming up in 3 days. That's why we're talking a little NFL, because that will be the first live football. So I believe this is coming up now this Thursday, we will have some form of live tackle football on every Thursday starting this week until mid-February.
I'm here for it.
Or early February, I guess. So that's pretty that's exciting. We've made it. We have officially made it. I know it's been a long summer. It's been a long spring. Thankfully, college basketball, Auburn making the Final Four, Alabama going to the Elite Eight. That helps now, having those programs be where they are, but nothing is going to replicate what we get here in college football season, and it continues to get closer and closer. So, yeah, if you missed it, 26 days from now, you're going to have week 0 kicking off. You're going to have Iowa State, Kansas State is kind of the highlight game there of that week 0 slate. And then 32 days away, you're going to have Auburn taking on Baylor. And 33 days from now, you're going to have Alabama traveling to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. Something interesting I did notice yesterday, though, Damian, and I wondered if you just had any thoughts on this off the top of your head, because I'll be completely honest with you, I was kind of dumbfounded by it. So if you pay attention to these early lines that have come out for some of these college football games, I mean, they've been out for a while now for these week 1 matchups. And up until this weekend, Auburn had been anywhere from like a 1.5 to a 2.5, like 2.5 point favorite over Baylor in that opening game. And then I saw yesterday where Baylor has now flipped and they are now a 1.5 point favorite. So you've had about a 3-4 point swing there in that line in the last couple of days. I just did you have any thoughts on why that might be? Because I was, I texted a couple people last night and said, hey, have you seen this? Like, oh, yeah, no, it's legit. I just went and looked myself, but yeah, it's not like you've had any injury news or anything like that would make you, that's a pretty big swing in the grand scheme of things when you go from being about a 2-point favorite on the road to now Baylor being a 1.5 point favorite at home, which isn't a surprise that they're the home team, that they're favored, but just that Auburn had been up to this point. Yeah.
I don't really know. Maybe Vegas may know something, or I guess the raucous crowd in Waco, Texas, it could
that's got to be.
That's got to be on a Friday night too. It's a little different if it's at 11 o'clock on a Saturday, but the Friday night maybe an extra day or the day before travel or something. I don't know. It's week 1. We don't know what to expect, but that's the fun part. Because people will still engage in some activities, and I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I don't blame them at all. I do the same thing, but I don't know. I'm not gonna read too much into it, but maybe Sawyer Robertson is that guy, and they're like, hey, it's between him and Jackson Arnold. I don't know. I'm not sure, but we shall see once we get closer to kickoff.
Yeah, we certainly will. I think that's going to be an excellent game. I honestly think that game, from just where you look at where those programs are, look, it's not going to be a Texas-Ohio State, right, in terms of the national scale and the attention that it's going to get, but I think it's going to be one of the very best matchups of that first weekend, first official weekend after week 0 of college football. So very, very excited about that. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting that Auburn had taken a dip there because, again, I'm going into that game with the expectation that Auburn's going to win that football game. I think they should win that football game. I think they really need to win that football game for a few reasons. But we certainly will see. And if you've been paying attention to things around the Big 12, Baylor's got a little bit of buzz to him. And Damian mentioned it. Sawyer Robertson, one of the better quarterbacks in the country coming back this year. So going to be an exciting one there on August 29th as Auburn will take on Baylor to kick off their 2025 college football season. But we did have some other things going on over the weekend. You had the Braves in action, and we have the trade deadline. So the Hall of Fame game's on Thursday. That's also when the MLB trade deadline is. And the Braves making a move for a starting pitcher yesterday. If you missed that, we'll tell you who it is and what it means for the second half of the Braves season, potentially next on Morning JOX. Oh, 6:16. Welcome back into Morning JOX here on your Monday morning. Got some beef going on the text line here. I didn't know this is how we were going to start off the week here with talking a little Auburn Baylor here, but we've got our resident Auburn fan, Don, chiming in on the text line. He says, "Hey, I hope you guys had a good weekend. I'm glad that we are an underdog now, talking about Auburn versus Baylor. Put it on the bulletin board that no one respects you this year. Shock the world, baby."
It's 2025, dog. There's no such thing as bulletin board material. And how would you like? I don't get that. Like that's a backwards line of thinking.
Well, okay, so I'll disagree with you a little bit on that. I will buy into the bulletin board material a little bit. I will not buy into the shock the world if you beat Baylor because you should beat Baylor.
Right. You were opened up as the favorite. So that means either y'all are close in stature or you're actually you're better than them. Like you should go over there and win.
Yes. You should.
But bulletin board material, no. These dudes are more worried about what somebody says about them on Twitter. If you get tagged in a picture.
Well, that's bulletin board material.
That's
the bulletin board.
That's the bulletin board.
Well, and it's like, okay, I can understand the sentiment of it, but, it's one of the things that Brian Kelly, it kind of flew under the radar. I don't feel like anybody ever talked about this. But at Media Days, I don't know if you remember, but he mentioned that in their weight room, they have put the Clemson logo on, all of their equipment.
That's psychological, yeah.
Yeah. That's the way the bulletin board material should go, in my opinion.
Right. I agree with you 100% because that's the first opponent that you have. It's kind of backwards the same way Ohio State has the Michigan countdown or the team up north countdown, whatever, because this is how many days that you've got to play against them. For LSU, you haven't beaten anybody in week 1 in 5 years, 4 years. So the only focus you need to have besides filling out what your team is going to look like is the opponent that you have week 1, and it's Clemson. That's the only thing you need to be worried about because you take each week 1 week at a time, and that's the only focus that you have. And I thought that, the conversation about Death Valley, the conversation about Death Valley Jr. and things like that, it's like, okay, well, this is
it's a little chippy. Yeah,
I like this. And again, after fall camp, you are just waiting to hit somebody else that's not in your jersey. That's the only thing that pushes you to get through fall camp is, all right, I need to know where I am on the depth chart. And by God, when we get past week 3, finally we can put our mind into preparation for the game, and that's coming up.
Yeah, so Auburn getting their bulletin board material from FanDuel, because that's who has the line where Baylor is -1.5. And Don clarifies. He says, "I meant shocking the world over the course of the entire season." Okay, I'll give you that one. Got to start with Baylor though. Got to start off hot. Otherwise, I'm not saying this. I think we can all imagine what that Monday will look like if Baylor wins that first game. And I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
But the same goes for Alabama if they lose to Florida State. I'm just throwing that out there. It's the exact same situation. If either Auburn or Alabama loses their first game, that next Monday is make sure you're tuned in. I will just throw that out there. But we'll get to more of your text here a little bit later on in the show because y'all are already filling it up this morning. But a couple other things to get to first. And I did mention that you had the Atlanta Braves who were in action this weekend. And unfortunately for the Atlanta Braves, that did lead to a sweep at the hands of the Texas Rangers. So just when you thought that maybe things couldn't really get that much worse for Atlanta this season, that is exactly what happens. They had an opportunity on Saturday as they went into extra innings. They lost that game 6-5 to the Rangers, but lost 8-1 yesterday, 8-3 on Friday. So not a great weekend as Atlanta now falls to 44-60. They are 17 games under 500, and now they will travel to Kansas City starting tonight. That's where you're going to get your hear your Braves baseball tonight on JOX, and hopefully, I mean, at this point, you're just playing from like, I don't know, your sanity, I guess, if you're the Braves, right? Like, you don't want to get swept, I think, and that's, very telling from, hearing Landrum and Barrett Slee on Friday, just, hope we don't get swept this weekend, and that's kind of where you're at. You just want to win one of two. You're not even trying to win series anymore. You're just trying to win one of two, so we'll see if Atlanta's able to do that, and maybe with the help of some reinforcements, because yesterday the Braves did make a little bit of news in the MLB trade market as they acquired a pitcher, which they need because they've had some injury problems, and that pitcher will be Eric Fetty, who, if you listen to Three Man Front, he is a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, and you have heard Pat Smith talk a number of times, quite frankly, about how awful this guy is. And so if you're the Atlanta Braves, you went and traded yesterday for Eric Fetty. His record this year is 3-10. His ERA is 5.22. And that is who you went to bolster your rotation. He is also 32 years old. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. So you literally brought this guy in to pitch for the next 3 months of your disastrous season, 2 months of your disastrous season, and then I assume you're just going to let him walk in the offseason. So that's certainly an interesting decision by the front office. I think we can certainly say that. But the Braves, to be fair, you did need some reinforcements because you look at what they've had. You had A.J. Smith-Shawver. He tears his UCL. He's going to go have Tommy John surgery. Spencer Schwellenbach messed up his elbow. You have Chris Sale, who broke his ribs, making that great diving play off of the mound a number of weeks ago. And then you also had Grant Holmes with an injury to his elbow go on the 60-day injured list, was ultimately the decision there. So you did need some reinforcements. You needed some help. I get it, but just kind of an interesting situation to go get a guy in a contract year who has been one of the worst starting pitchers in Major League Baseball to be that guy to potentially, help bolster your rotation down the stretch. So we will see how that plays out for the Atlanta Braves. Hopefully a couple more moves, I would imagine, Braves fans, you're looking for this week. The report is that Marcell Ozuna will be traded, and the belief is that he will waive his no-trade clause for any team out there that will give him regular playing time, which he is not going to get in Atlanta for the rest of the season. So I don't think that's a big surprise. And again, that's a guy that's going to be in a contract year, so not going to be a huge shock to see him go. But we'll see if there's any other tricks up Anthopoulos' sleeve this week as the trade deadline, again, coming down on Thursday, so only a few more days for these moves to be made. But you also had a special day yesterday, and we knew this was coming, but with the MLB Hall of Fame induction ceremony, so you had 3 players that were inducted yesterday. You had Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner, so 3 guys that I know, Damian, that we remember watching growing up and that were, 3 of the bigger names. I mean, I guess Billy Wagner, again, a lot of you, I'm not gonna be mad if you don't remember Billy Wagner, but he was, him and Trevor Hoffman in my eyes, probably this 2 second best closers kind of in that battle for second best closer that I can remember seeing in my lifetime, obviously behind Mariano Rivera. But then you have Ichiro, who is, just an iconic figure, not only here in America, but obviously what he did in his career in Japan, being a huge figure and an international star for a number of years. And then CC Sabathia, who had a great career not only with Cleveland, then Milwaukee, but me being a big Yankees fan, he was a big part of the only World Series that I have gotten to see as a fan of the New York Yankees back in 2009. And he's been a big part of the events that they've had at Rickwood the last couple of years as well. So got to see him last year when he was here for the Giants and Cardinals game, which was really, really cool. But 3 very deserving inductees yesterday into the Hall of Fame, Damian. And I got to give a shout out to Ichiro. I don't know if you saw it, but in his speech, he specifically called out the one writer that did not vote for him to make it into the Hall of Fame. So I thought that was a cool moment. But yeah, 3 legends of the game, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it makes no sense, too. Like, Ichiro is a unanimous Hall of Famer. Like, it's no question about it. Like, I don't understand how the MLB Hall of Fame truly could find ways to still cause controversy, if that makes sense. Like, it's, if you watch baseball and you watch high-level baseball, you can't tell me through Ichiro's career that he was not a Hall of Famer from the time that you saw. And for it not to be unanimous, it just makes no sense. But yeah, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner, like, when I think of CC Sabathia, I remember him, especially when I was younger, and with him being on the Cleveland Indians, and it's like, man, that dude, he a big dude, but he is bringing some absolute gas and sitting them down. And then, for him to go to the New York Yankees, it's like, okay, this is how they reload. Like, this is how they keep this thing rolling. And just think of the success that he's had in his career. The same with Billy Wagner, the one that closed, like, again, alongside Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman. When you want the door closed, that's who you want on the mound to make sure you save the game. And again, for the illustrious career that they've had, it's great to see. And it's also a point that we're getting a little bit older now when we can say we saw these guys play, and we saw them play in their prime, and they had an impact on us growing up and watching the game. And just congratulations to those guys.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the cool thing is like you just said, right? We're now at, we're about to be 30, both of us, and I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, y'all are still so young, and I get that, but at the same time, it is cool to now be at a point where you're getting to watch these guys that are getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you're going, oh, those were like some of my favorite players growing up, and having those memories associated with them, and not, just hearing stories about people or having to go back and watch old highlights on YouTube or whatever, but, having actual, tangible memories that you remember growing up and watching these guys. But you did bring up the fact that Ichiro, we were talking about how he fell 1 vote short of being a unanimous decision. So there's only one player in Major League Baseball history who's ever been unanimous in terms of the Hall of Fame vote, and that was Mariano Rivera, who we were just talking about. So Ichiro, he falls 1 vote short of unanimous, and there's one other player who had that happen to him. Damien, do you remember who it was?
Was it Ken Griffey Jr.?
Ken Griffey Jr. had 3 votes short, which that is wild
Still
to me. That no doubt that he should have been unanimous as well as Ichiro. Derek Jeter, he also fell 1 vote short back in 2020 when he had 396 of 397 votes, which again, it's what more could somebody possibly do in a career to be a unanimous Hall of Famer? No one's asking you to say that he's the best player of all time, but when it comes to being a unanimous Hall of Famer, I mean, I feel like you're really, really splitting hairs there if you find a reason to leave him off your ballot. But, yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a funny moment for Ichiro. He can still walk away. He's in the Hall of Fame. So, ultimately, who cares how many votes you ultimately got? But, yeah, big day there for those former MLB stars as they were inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. But want to get back to the college football conversation here coming up in just a couple of minutes, because we talked a little bit this morning about how the season is right around the corner. You got fall camp starting this week, and what are some of the potential roadblocks for contenders this year? When you look at the teams in, the top 12, top 15 of the preseason rankings, what do those teams need to do this year? What are their, kind of their final question marks between them and a national championship? We'll dive into some of those. We'll share them from around the SEC and other conferences as well as we continue to get you ready for the college football season right here on JOX. Welcome back into the Monday edition of Morning JOX. Connor and Damien here with you until 7 o'clock, when we'll hand you off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you being a part of our morning each and every day here on JOX. And we do want to give you a special reminder for an event we're excited for each and every year coming up in just a few weeks, and that is our college football kickoff party. So celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at JOX at the Bill Smith Buick GMC JOX kickoff party at Regions Field coming up Thursday, August 21st. And the only way for you to go is by winning tickets. And to win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, just text the keyword kickoff and your full name to 205-834-9450. Again, text the keyword kickoff with your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are going to be drawn and notified daily. For more information, you can visit us online at joxfm.com. So very excited. Always love when we get out and just, check in with all of you wonderful listeners and kind of just, talk off the record. What are our thoughts on the upcoming season? What are your expectations? Who do you hate here on Jox? Who do you like here on Jox? All that kind of fun stuff that comes up inevitably in those conversations. So we look forward to that each and every year and look forward to seeing you again coming up in about 3 weeks there at Regions Field. So I told you we were going to take a look at some contenders for the upcoming college football season and maybe some what-if scenarios for them. What are the things that need to go right for these teams if they are going to contend for a national championship this year as we expect? And so we have a couple of SEC teams to choose from, Damian. And so some of these we'll just go over quickly. And so starting off here, so these are kind of tiered out, right? So you have some teams that have 4 what-if scenarios, or some teams that have 3 what-if scenarios, and then one SEC team that only has 2 what-if scenarios, which means that essentially they have the least amount of question marks, at least in Bill Connolly's eyes, because that is who created this article. So we'll start off with Ole Miss. They're the first team on the board, Damian. These are the 4 scenarios, the 4 what-ifs for Ole Miss this year. If Austin Simmons is the guy at quarterback, I think we all agree that if Austin Simmons is, even close to what you got from Jackson Dart the last couple of years, you're going to be in good shape. All right. If the transfer portal once again is able to have the answers for Ole Miss offensively speaking, and I think you look at a lot of this at, finding some guys on the outside. You lost some talent last year, and you need a running game. That was something that you just didn't have last year, and I think we could all agree that Ole Miss, that could be what potentially takes them over the edge from last year's offense, is having a consistent running game. The third what if for Ole Miss is if their rebuilt offensive and defensive lines are able to hold up. And I think that's my biggest question mark for them, is you just lost so much on defense last year, and that was the best Ole Miss defense that I've seen in I don't know how long. And, my concerns on the offensive side of the ball are, they get the benefit of the doubt. But defensively, that's where I really start to have some questions. And then it also adds that through the portal, did you find enough help in the secondary? So I think that's where a lot of my questions and what ifs for Ole Miss would lie, is on the defensive side.
Yeah, because I think offensively they have to be – Lane Kiffin has entered this situation where it has to be proven week by week that they're just not clicking. Kind of like the Kentucky game. Like I'll have to witness that game happens before I not give them the benefit of the doubt, their offense not being able to just go out there and explode. And I agree with you. Defensively, Pete Golden, he had the best defense Lane Kiffin has had since he's been at Ole Miss, and they still couldn't get over the top. There were games that, they kind of, they let slip away. But I think for Ole Miss, and you hear a lot about, building up a culture or not. Lane Kiffin has kind of reached the point of, I need the best talent that I can get. I just need him for a year. We'll see where it goes. That's essentially how it is. Yeah. And he's done a pretty good job, the past couple seasons. But still, even then, you find those questionable losses like, going down to the Swamp and losing to a Florida team that you are better than. Or at least you were better than last year. And then you get rocked. And then, of course, with Kentucky, how sloppy that game was, you end up following that one and then losing it to LSU on the last play. But I think for Ole Miss, a lot of it is just, all right, now you got to go on the road to Georgia. How different does that game look? Because you got them last year and you really punched them in the mouth. Now it's going into Athens. Can you get that job done? And yeah, I think, like we said, the defensive side of the ball is probably the biggest question mark. It's, can you even sniff the same success that you had defensively last year? And that's to be determined.
So Florida finds themselves in the same tier as Ole Miss. They have 4 what-ifs for the upcoming season for them. So first off, if DJ Lagway is what we think he is, that's the biggest one, right? I think we all agree is, If you get a healthy DJ Lagway for all 12 games and he's even better than what you saw last year with some of the throws that he's able to make, that's where you start to see the ceiling for Florida as a, maybe a dark horse playoff team this year actually start to come into reality a little bit. Also, they add if he has wide receivers, which I think we all know there's a lot of young talent on that team with the likes of Eugene Wilson and Aiden Mizell and some of those guys, but are they going to be able to step up? Do you have a third and even a fourth receiver that can step up in that rotation as well? Another what if for Florida: can last year's young defenders take a veteran step forward? Again, I think we all agree that last year Florida at times defensively wasn't up to snuff, and that, as much as we love the offense, again, like Ole Miss, you're going to have that defense in the SEC, as we all know. And then finally for Florida, do they have the depth to survive their schedule? And I think that's another fair question, because they do have one of the most difficult schedules in the entire country. How about LSU? They also have 4 what ifs. For LSU, it's, can new star receivers emerge? They also note, as usually happens. So yeah, that's one of those things I don't really have questions about with LSU and wide receivers. They're very similar to Ohio State with me, where it's, even if I didn't know who the names of the guys were, one of them is going to be a first-round pick in 2 years. Like, it's pretty much guaranteed. So I don't have a ton of problems there. Again, they go for LSU. Have they been able to rebuild that offensive line, which you are losing a lot off of that offensive line, including Will Campbell, who was a top 10 pick in this past year's draft? Can the portal transfers in the secondary make a big difference? I absolutely agree with that. The defense definitely took a step up in Blake Baker's first year last year, but they're nowhere near what we're used to seeing from LSU, about a decade ago, when they were right up there with the very best in the country. And then finally, it says, are your risks better rewarded in terms of, are you getting burned on a lot of these plays? Are you being aggressive on defense, but you're not making up for it with turnovers on the back end, right? Are you kind of letting that even out with the style of defense that Blake Baker likes to call? And we will certainly have to wait and see on that one for LSU. So those are your teams with 4 what ifs out of the SEC. Now the teams with 3 what ifs in the SEC. One of those will be the Texas Longhorns, Damian. And again, they start off, if Arch Manning is as good as advertised,
boom,
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Also, do the young receivers give Arch Manning the support that he needs? Because you are having to replace a number of guys, including Isaiah Bond, who, we can make all the jokes that he wants, but he was a veteran wide receiver who I'm sure they would be really happy to have right now.
Man, that's the first time I heard you say his name in a long time.
We can move on now. I'm over it since, joke's on him now, so we can move on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And then third for Texas, in terms of their what ifs, it would be, yet again, can the defensive and offensive lines hold up? Because we know trench play in the SEC is important as always. Now, how about the Georgia Bulldogs? This one they note, I like how they worded this one differently. It says, if Gunnar Stockton is as good as Kirby Smart says he is. I like the way that they phrased that.
Right to the point.
And I think we all agree that, Gunnar Stockton, I kind of view him and Ty Simpson in like similar boats, where you look at all the talent around them and you go, surely you're going to find a way to make this work, because you're just on such a talented roster. But I think it's fair. Yes, he did beat Texas when he came in the second half of the SEC title game, but he didn't look super great at times. And the same thing for Notre Dame. Like he struggled. And I know a lot of that has to do with his receivers weren't, those receivers didn't help any Georgia quarterback last year. But Gunnar Stockton's certainly going to have a big year for Georgia if they want to compete for national championship. They also add, yes, the wide receiving core needs to improve greatly, because they did lead the entire country in drops. Not the SEC, the entire country in drops last year. Certainly going to have to be better there. And then again, as we are used to seeing with all of these, it's the trenches, right? Have you been able to reload on the trenches? Now, how about the one SEC team, Damian? There's one that we haven't gotten to yet that has 2 what ifs. So just based on the exercise, that would mean they have the least number of questions about them going into the season, according to Bill Connolly.
Don't tell me.
That would be the Alabama
Crimson Tide, baby. Roll Tide.
So the 2 what ifs for Alabama. The first one, can Ty Simpson or whoever plays quarterback do what Ryan Grubb needs them to do? And essentially, they're looking at it as Ryan Grubb is a veteran. He knows how to call an offense. The proof is in the pudding there. Can whoever the quarterback is run his offense? And I think we all agree that that's a big question. And for Ty Simpson, that absolutely seems to be him right now. We know that he would be the starting quarterback if they played tomorrow. And so he's going to get the first opportunity at that, you would imagine. But yeah, you got to be able to run the Ryan Grubb offense, and you got to be able to do it confidently. And you got 3 guys in that room. If you're not able to execute, I have to imagine it's going to be very quick to, all right, next man up, because we don't have time to waste this year if you're Ryan Grubb in that offense. So Ty Simpson or whoever the quarterback is being able to execute the offense. And then secondly, only the second question mark for Alabama, according to Bill Connolly, is can the pass rush be better than last year? And I absolutely agree with that. The number of times that I saw LT Overton get in the backfield last year and put his hands on a quarterback and not get a sack made me sick to my stomach. And those are the kinds of things that you have to be able to fix. You have to be able to improve on this year, especially for a guy like LT Overton, right? That's what takes you from being a second-round pick to a first-round pick, and why I have to imagine he came back for another year along with some of those other guys up front. So that's how you have it for Alabama, according to ESPN and Bill Connolly. The two biggest question marks for the Tide: can Ty Simpson run the offense, and can the pass rush improve on last year? So what do you think? What are your question marks for Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Ole Miss, some of these other teams that were mentioned here? We'd love to hear from you, 205-834-9450, and we will go straight to the text line next on Morning JOX. 6:50, welcome back into the Monday edition of Morning JOX. Connor and Damian here with you, talking some college football and some what-ifs for the top contenders in the SEC this season. So if you missed it a few moments ago, Alabama with only two what-ifs, according to Bill Connolly, so the least of any team in the SEC. And the only other team in the country, Damian, that was in that category as well, is only having two, I guess, essentially big question marks heading into the season, was Penn State. And the one for Penn State was, can Drew Aller take the next step and be a national championship quarterback? And then can his receivers beat man coverage? Those were the two what-ifs for Penn State. And Alabama's were, can Ty Simpson run the Ryan Grubb offense, and can the pass rush improve over what we've seen the last couple of years? So some of you chiming in on the text line, 205-834-9450, brought to you by Courtesy GMC. And that is where we will head right now. Where Chris, he chimes in. He says, if you think about it, for Alabama, the running backs need to improve and be utilized better than last year for Bama to get back to a national championship level this year. Can't rely on the QB run and just expect the wide receivers to carry us. I certainly agree with that. And I think you go back to 2 years ago in Washington when they played for a national championship, and you had Dylan Johnson, who ran for about 1,200 yards and 15 or 16 touchdowns that year. And I think if you're able to get, granted, I think we understand Jam Miller's going to get a lot of the carries, but Richard Young figures to factor in pretty heavily as well. And so, you know, maybe you don't have a 1,000-yard rusher for Alabama this year, but you're absolutely going to have more from the backfield than you did last year because, yeah, let's be honest. Last year the running game was Jalen Milroe, and a lot of that was necessity because, I mean, did any of us want to see what that looked like in the second half of the season if he dropped back and threw it 40 times a game? I didn't.
No, wasn't ideal.
No, I wouldn't have wanted to see that. So, yes, that is definitely something that's going to have to be a little bit better this year. Another text coming in. I'm worried about tight end for Alabama. The guys that we lost to graduation were solid but unspectacular. We need some of the young bucks to step up, and it would help if Danny Lewis Jr. can stay healthy for once. Yeah, the injury problem has been real. You were down to, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel in spring practice because of the injuries. But Cuevas is going to be the main guy, I think, at tight end. But I agree in the sense you need a Robbie Oots guy, right? You need somebody that's just gonna be a dog and block for you, and not be worried about, you know, how many catches he gets every game, how many touchdowns he has, how many yards he has. I'm that sixth offensive lineman, and that's what you need to identify if you're Alabama, and so we will see. But, yeah, I think tight end, definitely another position that we need to see somebody step up for Alabama. Somebody else chimes in. He just says, God bless you guys today. Thanks for everything that you do. Well, thank you for listening. We appreciate the kind words.
We appreciate it.
We will be here every day until they tell us not to be. Nick from North Birmingham chimes in. He says, for Auburn, I would say the roadblocks for them are keeping the offensive turnovers to a minimum and not giving up big plays on third and long so you can get off the field and get the offense back out there. I agree with that. I think those are two big things there for Auburn this year, absolutely. And then for Alabama, he says Alabama's roadblocks are not utilizing the mid to short passing game enough and the run defense. Alabama finished 11th in the SEC in run defense last year. And I think we also agree that's going to be important in week 1 because who likes to run the football a lot? Gus Malzahn. So that would certainly be a big one there. Someone says we need a bully at tight end for the Crimson Tide. That would help.
It would help.
That would absolutely help. There is no doubt about it. Let's see. We have somebody chiming in. They say, I think the line for the Auburn-Baylor game changed because Baylor announced that they are wearing their all-black uniforms. They're doing a blackout for the first game. Okay.
The old uniform Vegas line change. I got you. Be ready. Hey, be prepared.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure Auburn will be just fine. Hey, they went to Penn State. Well, okay, never mind.
Yeah, go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry. Should not have gone there. Someone else chimes in. How hot will Hugh Freeze's seat be if he loses week 1 at Baylor? It's going to be hot.
It's going to be a little warm.
It is absolutely going to be hot. Let's go to Alan real quick. Sorry, Alan, you got about 30 seconds, buddy. How we doing?
What's up, gentlemen? Hey, Damian, what's your top 5 for fans again?
Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee.
All right, would you be willing to wager a lifetime fandom if the team that you pick wins a national championship?
Ooh, I like that.
That is enticing. Let my people get with your people, and we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that at a later date. But I'm not opposed to it.
See you guys at Regions. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
There we go, Alan. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this morning. We are back tomorrow at 6 a.m., but right now, you got McElroy and Kublik in the morning.